here. Hey everyone, and welcome to Prune Belly Insiders. I'm your host, Michael Adams. Now, before I announce my guest today, I wanted to let everybody know about two fundraisers that are coming up. And I want to apologize because in the last video, I actually said the wrong date of the fundraiser, so I actually have to look at it now to see it. But we have a 5K run that also has a biking category, Bikes for Bellies, and a mile walk, the Mikey Mile. That's Saturday, October 8th at 9 a.m. And afterward, the Community Health Day follows, so you're more than welcome to stay for the enjoyment. 50% of the money will be going towards the Prune Belly Survivor Network, and 50% will be going towards the surprise I have. I will also be selling Prune Belly shirts there, and the profit of them will also be going towards the surprise I have coming up. Aside from that, there's one other fundraiser, October 15th, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. at in Maryland. I'll put information of how to contact the point person for that down below. But from what I heard, there's going to be prune bellies there, raffles, 50/50s, and that's to both raise money for the network, and then the other half is going towards well, the one running it is a mother who has a son with prune bellies, had 40 surgeries, so she's trying to raise money for her her son's medical bills. She started a non-profit, not non-profit. She started a sweet treat company through the pandemic, trying to help pay him down. So, if it's on your heart to give, both links will be in the description below. Now, without further ado, let me announce our guest, Lisa, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm so sorry, I forgot your last name.
Brooks.
All right, Lisa
Lisa
Brooks.
Brooks. Uh-huh.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my profession is I'm an instructional assistant at an elementary school. I'm in the pre-K room. We live now in the Baltimore area. I'm originally from West Virginia. And besides Brandon, who's my Prune Belly survivor, I have another daughter, Brittany, who is 21 years old now. And Brittany and Brandon are both away at college. So Brad and I are empty nesters now. So,
So, was it hard to get pregnant with Brandon?
um, well, I'll go all the way back to the beginning with Brittany. It was actually very easy to get pregnant with Brittany. We only tried for a few months and got pregnant. Didn't really have any issues with her at all. I had a little bit of high blood pressure right at the end, but there was no complications really, and she didn't have any medical issues. However, after Brittany was born, I did have two miscarriages before I got pregnant with Brandon. And, in hindsight now, when I think about that, I always have to wonder, was there maybe something going on with those pregnancies that, maybe they had prune belly and just, didn't even
Hadn't
make
caught
it.
it in time.
Yeah. So technically it really wasn't hard to get pregnant, but it was a little hard to stay pregnant. So it was the third one after Brittany when I did get pregnant with Brandon. And because I had had the miscarriages, my doctor was kind of already monitoring me a little more closely. After I got kind of past like 8 weeks, maybe they started doing some ultrasounds. And of course, at that point, everything was fine. It was too early to see. And then when I had like the 19 weeks ultrasound, like the kind of just to check in halfway through, they noticed on the ultrasound that Brandon's bladder was very enlarged. They said he had bilateral club feet and that there was also a cyst on my umbilical cord. So when the doctor brought us in to talk to us, she's like, we found these three things going on and we're not sure what it is, but usually when we find, you know, two or more things in a pregnancy, it's doesn't really look good as far as, being a viable pregnancy and whether, if I would potentially lose the pregnancy. So they sent us right away to for genetic testing because of the doctor explained that if they did genetic testing and found, some of those real serious things that could be going on, I wouldn't be a candidate for any kind of intervention, like, surgery in utero or anything like that. But luckily,
Okay.
there was all the genetic tests came back normal. There was no other, issues like that. So they said that looking at Brandon's bladder, that we might either be looking at Prune Belly syndrome or PUV, posterior urethral valves, I think is what that is. They couldn't tell for sure, but they wanted to monitor me. So I went every 2 weeks for an ultrasound to monitor basically the level of amniotic fluid because that would tell them if there was a blockage. If if my fluid level was decreasing, that would indicate a blockage in his bladder.
Yeah. And how were you feeling through all this? Like, what were some of your thoughts or fears or?
Well, we were obviously very scared because we didn't know what was going on, especially that first day. And it took, I think it took 10 days maybe to get the results from the genetic tests back. Um, so that was a really long wait because we couldn't really proceed with anything until they got those answers. And I don't know, like maybe a day or so before we got the phone call, I told Brandon's dad, that I just had this really calm feeling, like the anxiety and the stress kind of went away. And I just kind of had a feeling I knew that everything was going to be okay.
All right.
So, and after that, obviously it was. So that first 10 days, that was the hardest.
All right.
But then to continue, I guess as far as the pregnancy goes, um, every 2 weeks I went for an ultrasound to monitor the fluid, which stayed normal right where it was supposed to
Yeah.
be until he was born. So they said, there's probably not a blockage then. So they didn't want to do any kind of in utero intervention. So Brandon, I was induced about 3 weeks early because my doctor was like, let's get this baby delivered so we can see what's going on,
Yeah.
and proceed from there. So like I said, he was born 3 weeks early, and as soon as he was born, he peed all over the nurses. So we knew he didn't have any blockage, as far as anything like that. But his belly was distended. So it was pretty obvious at that point that he had prune belly and not PUV.
Okay.
I guess maybe if I could just back up a little bit, because we didn't know exactly what was going on. We did meet with our urologist, Dr. Voigt, while I was still pregnant, because he would treat both of those conditions. And they kind of prepped us for the worst, but told us to hope for the best. For example, like we toured the NICU at my hospital, expecting that Brandon would probably spend some time there right after he was
Yeah.
born before he could go home, possible surgery right away.
Now,
Um,
I hate to cut you off. I just have one question.
yeah.
Through the pregnancy, has the doctors ever mentioned abortion?
Um, Initially, when after the ultrasound, before we had the genetic testing, I mean, it was kind of mentioned, but not like suggested to us that that would be
Okay.
something we might want to do, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it could have been an option, but they didn't. No, they didn't. We never felt like that's what the doctors suggested for us. And
Okay.
my faith would never let me do that anyway, even if
Yeah, yeah,
they said, I would have
yeah.
continued no matter what. So
I actually made the whole video on the Roe v. Wade thing. I'm on same boat as you.
yeah.
Link in description below, by the way. So, why don't we just continue your story a little bit?
Okay, well, so like I said, um, the delivery was pretty non-eventful, and they did take Brandon to the NICU right away to get him checked out because they had already planned for that. They knew there was something going on. But he was actually back in the room with me later that night, the day he was born. He ended up not having to spend any time in the NICU at all because his vitals were all good. There was no blockage. He was, you know, function, everything was working like it should. So they brought him right back to my room that evening. So he didn't spend any time in the NICU, which was wonderful for us. We were in the hospital the 5 days. Um, I
Hmm,
guess kind of normal amount
yeah.
of time. They did a BCUG on him in the hospital. That was the first test he had done, and they discovered that he did have reflux. And they started him on an antibiotic, a prophylactic dose of antibiotic right away. So he went home from the hospital on an antibiotic. And basically, we were, everything was pretty normal. We just kind of had to watch for any kind of complications. Took his antibiotic every day. He never had any infections or anything. We followed up with the doctor, his urologist, and the pediatrician, of course. And the first procedure Brandon ever had was for his undescended testicles. I think he had that about 3 months old
Wow.
because I know from like reading the Prune Belly stories and hearing other people talk about their experiences, a lot of doctors have different opinions about things that they do for treatment. And our doctor was of the thought that do it right away, absolutely as soon as you can. That way, there's more of a chance that they'll be viable
Yeah,
and working. So he was 3 months and everything, the surgery went well. And, they kind of monitor him. And I guess it's okay for me to say this, but at some point, he will probably want to do like some kind of analysis to see if he is able to father children on his own naturally someday. But he's got time for that. But
yeah,
that is kind of one thing that we'll still don't know answers to anything like that. But
yeah. And there's multiple options for that too, aside from
oh
that.
yeah.
I know a lot of, well, maybe not a lot, but some of the prune bellies I met have had to do it actually in vitro.
Yeah, so there are options, but like I said, his doctor was the thinking that the sooner the better chance they have of surviving and working and doing what they should. So
Yeah.
um like I said, 3 months, that was his first surgery. And then after that, he had a procedure called deflux
Okay.
for his
What?
reflux.
Oh, okay.
Deflux is actually a synthetic material that they inject. They injected like at the base of his ureter. So when the urine would, come out, it would help close up the valve so that it didn't back up into his kidneys. And it was
Really?
a kind of, I think, a fairly new thing. And I don't even know now if a lot of doctors do that, but instead of having, invasive surgery like a ureter reimplant or whatever, it was outpatient. They just, he explained like he takes a little syringe and just kind of
Yeah.
injects some of
I
that. And yeah, it worked for
yeah.
Brandon. So
I had no clue about that because that's actually why part of the reason I had a surgery back in 2016 is the urine kept getting going back up
Yep.
into my kidneys. I
Yeah.
yeah, no
So
doctor even mentioned that. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. That's
yeah, well,
interesting.
and evidently the insurance company didn't either, because if there's one hiccup that we've had, along those lines with anything, was we had to kind of push a little bit to get them to cover it, because it was something that was like not normal, and it was,
Experimental.
yeah. But they did, it all work out in the end. And so when they did the one side, they did the side that was worse first. And then when he went back in, they realized the other side was, just as bad or worse than the first side. But
Oh,
well, the way the doctor explained it is like, the one side was really, really bad. The other side wasn't as bad. At least it didn't seem like. And so it's like, you kind of close it off on one side and the other side's not working. So then you see how bad the other side was. So he did go in and have it on the other kidney, I don't know, a couple months later.
okay.
Um, and then the really only two other surgeries that Brandon's had was when he had the VCUG after the second deflux procedure. He had urinary retention and had to be cathed. We had to take him to the emergency room because it had been like a day and he hadn't, gone to the bathroom. So they put a catheter in to drain his bladder. And our doctor's thought was that when they did the VCUG, his bladder was too weak and too big, that it couldn't contract and get rid of all the urine.
Yeah,
And so it just couldn't do its job. And then also, we think that it was painful for Brandon. And a lot of it was a little bit psychological, because we could tell that it was uncomfortable and it hurt.
yeah.
So the psychological, and then the fact that his bladder was just not strong enough. We had like 3 or 4 trips back and forth to the ER to cath him, to drain his bladder. And so what they ended up doing was a bladder reduction surgery. So they just went in and, like, cut out the bad part of his bladder, shrunk it down, and he never had any problems after that. So that
Wow.
was successful. And then the last surgery he had was when he was 5, right before he started kindergarten. He had the abdominoplasty to the reconstruction, and he did great with that too.
That's absolutely amazing. And you said all his surgeries were done by the time he was 5 years old?
Yep.
That's extremely rare for a prune belly. That's absolutely amazing luck.
Yeah. Well, when Brandon was born, our doctor, of course, he doesn't see a lot of prune belly kids because it's rare, but he told us that Brandon's case is very mild. It was probably one of the mildest case he's ever personally treated. So we were very lucky.
Hmm. Yeah, mine was actually the opposite, believe it or not. Uh, or I'm gonna say the name of it. I really don't care. I was at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and the urologist there said I was the third most complicated case in the entire hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, how's Brandon's relationship with his family and his sister?
Oh, they are like very tight. They are very, very close, and they always have been.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
there's no competition there, like for attention or anything like that?
No, and I did worry about that when he was younger, with, because obviously he had to have a
Yeah,
lot more attention than she did. Excuse me, but I think because most all the issues were resolved when he was younger, really within
yeah,
the first couple years of his life, I don't really think either one of them have a whole lot of memory of some of the not so fun parts of, the treatments and stuff. And
yeah.
us having to leave, I mean, obviously there were definitely times we had to, call up a relative and be like, hey, can we bring her? Can you come and get her? We have to run to the emergency room. And hand her off. But like I said, she's
Yeah.
pretty easygoing and she was young at the time. So um she was fine.
All right. Now, what advice would you give a mother who just found out they have a prune belly baby inside them?
I would say join our group, Prune Belly Syndrome Network. I think there's two different Facebook pages out there now.
Actually, there's like four of them that my
Oh,
dad's in.
okay.
There's one for Puerto Rico, there's one for the UK, one for the USA, a general one, and then a private one.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I would say do that. Um, Try not to go on the internet and Google stuff because that's what we did and it scared us to death. We got
Yep.
ourselves really worked up and freaked out about what was going to happen. So I would say try not to do that. Join the
Well,
support groups and read some of the success stories and see,
yeah.
see what's
And,
possible.
and not going online to look for that type of stuff, that should go with any condition, really.
True.
Because I used to look up my symptoms, and almost any symptom you put in there, I have a headache. Oh, you got cancer.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard because you want answers, but
Yeah,
that
the
sometimes that
internet
makes it
isn't the
worse.
place to get them.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely get in a support group because there's lots of stories of success, lots of support, people who have been through the same thing you have. You can ask questions to real survivors, get
Yeah,
answers from real people. And I try to do that. Like I try to go on the the groups and answer questions people have
yeah,
and encouragement, give some of our experiences to
yeah,
help people out because it's scary. It's very scary when you look at the numbers.
yeah. Give other people the help we didn't have.
Yeah.
So, I think we're about to wrap things up.
Okay.
Are you willing? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Um, just that I think Brandon is, probably I don't want to say he's in the minority, but he's great. I mean, you would never know that he had any kind of health issues whatsoever. To see him, to meet him, he plays baseball, he plays golf, he played soccer, but he didn't like that very well. I mean, he does everything any other teenager would do. So we're just very thankful for our outcome.
And I think that's another reason why getting even awareness out there is so hard with this disease. Because let's face it, this is what someone would call an invisible disease. Unless any of us were to pull our shirts up
Yeah,
and show you all our scars, you wouldn't know there's anything wrong with us.
yeah,
And I've actually spoken to a couple schools. I'm on one permanently for their chapel, so I can keep go once a year to speak on Prune Belly. And I'm telling you, people are wanting this information. I'm shocked with how many questions I get just from the kindergartners.
yeah.
But this was absolutely amazing talking to you. Thank you for coming on the show. And
You're welcome.
are you willing to come back on if anyone has any more questions?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah, I'd
you.
be happy to. I like, I think people need that. They need to hear from people that have been through the process or the journey that they're just starting and know
Yeah,
that there's, definitely positive outcomes and people to lean on and people to give support.
yeah.
So, yep.
Yep, I don't know. One of my friends in 2017 actually had Prune Belly and committed suicide.
Oh no.
That ever since then, that's part of the reason I started this channel. I'd rather listen to somebody than see them in a casket. Well, I think that's all for now. I hope
Okay.
everyone enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so every time I upload a video, it tells you and you can watch and see my smiling face. And again, I want to thank Lisa for coming on. And I think that's it. Let's play the theme song.
For a long time, I seemed unique from a very early age, asking why, feeling weak, living within a cage, wondering if I am the only one.
What was I supposed to make of my limitations? How much more should I take of this situation? Can it be I am the only one?
The only one. The only one.
All throughout, I found out what love's about, leaving no doubt I'll survive, channel the drive, not deprived. Feel alive.
Do you know how it feels to be different? At times you think you are the only one who exists with the pain of not being the same. When you got brothers and sisters that don't share the same last name, or share the same blood, or share the same battle. Some days are real good, some days are just a hassle. Operations to doctor visits, you are not alone. So I wrote this to let you know you don't have to be alone.
The only one.
You don't have to be
The only one.
These days, there are ways through the haze to sing His praise. We gather here with prayers held dear, wanting to erase all pain, death, and fear. Lord, please help them see. No one seems to have heard just how this came to be. We need to spread the word.
Show the world I'm not the only one. No, no. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for this community. Thank you, Lord, for the thread we share. Thank you, Lord, for this unity. Thank you, Lord, for the power of care. Thank you,
The
Lord.
Prune Belly Syndrome Network is a volunteer organization devoted to patient support and education of the medical community about this rare condition.
1 in 40,000 live births result in Prune Belly Syndrome, and all of them have all or some of their abdominal muscles missing.
50% will not survive their second birthday.
Our goal is to change the medical profession's perception of Prune Belly Syndrome as a hopeless condition
and to educate and promote an interest among the community to do further research into the causes of the syndrome
and more effective treatments.
www.prunebelly.org.
You can help.
Thank you, Lord, for this community. Thank you, Lord, for the thread we share. Thank you, Lord, for this unity. Thank you, Lord, for the power of care. Thank you, Lord, for showing me I'm not the only one.
If you don't know what Prune Belly is, please go to www.prunebelly.org